my dear children, welcome to your science class. So last class we learned about the biotic components. What are biotic components in environment? Yes, biotic components are the living things that influence the growth of an organism. It's what we call biotic components, isn't it? The living things that affect the growth and development of an organism is what we call the biotic component in the environment, isn't it? So, and last class we also learned about the group of biotic components. We learned 4 group of biotic components. Now, can you recollect the names of the groups? Yes, we learned about the first group was producers, isn't it? We learned producers. Now, the second one is consumers, isn't it? So, which are the 3 type of consumers seen in our environment? Yes, primary consumers, secondary consumers, then yes, tertiary consumers, isn't it? Now, the third group is scavengers, right? Scavengers, isn't it? Scavengers are the organisms that feed on dead materials, isn't it? So now the fourth type is decomposers, isn't it? The fourth type is decomposers. What do decomposers do in our decomposers do in our environment? Yes, the decomposers help in the decomposition of the waste materials, as well as the decomposers decompose the excreta of plants and animals, isn't it? So we learned examples for all the 4 groups also. So in today's class what we are going to learn is about the interaction between the abiotic and biotic components. Interactions between abiotic and biotic components. The interactions between the abiotic and biotic components. Now, dear children, what are abiotic components? We have learned there are 2 types of components, that is abiotic and biotic components. What are abiotic components? Yes, abiotic components are the components. They are the non-living components that affect the growth of the organism in an environment, isn't it? So, they are non-living and biotic components are living components. So, how do these abiotic and biotic components interact? No organisms can live without the interaction to its environment, isn't it? Both abiotic and biotic factors are needed for the growth and development of an organism, isn't it? So, in order to prove that, an activity is given in your textbook, page number 89. So, this activity is to see the effect of abiotic components like water, air, sunlight, etc. in the germination of the seeds. Whether water, light, heat, air, etc. are needed for the germination of the seed. So teacher will demonstrate the activity. Let's go through the activity. This activity is to prove that abiotic factors, which are the abiotic factors? The non-living factors, isn't it? So the abiotic factors like light, air, sunlight, etc. influence on the germination of the seeds. Okay, so let's do this activity. For that, first we are taking a bowl and with dry soil and we are inserting the seeds on that. So what happens? The seeds will not germinate, isn't it? So secondly, we are taking the soil with air and water and we are putting the seeds. Now what happens? And we are adding the water also. Then what happens? We put it in the refrigerator. Now what happens after some times? What happens? What will happen? Yes, the seeds will not germinate, isn't it? If you put in refrigerator, that is without sunlight, seeds will not germinate. Now thirdly, what we are going to do is, we are taking a bowl, we are adding some soil, then we add some water, and along with water, we add some oil. So here we are adding some oil. Now what happens? We are trying to germinate the seeds. After some time, what will happen? Will the seeds germinate? No, the seeds does not germinate, isn't it? Firstly, what we are going to do is, we are taking a bowl of soil and we are adding some water and See, after that we are adding some water, we are keeping it. Then what will happen? The seeds will germinate. Yes, dear children. So by this activity we learned air, sunlight, water, etc. are needed for the germination of seeds, isn't it? So likewise, the biotic and abiotic characters are needed for an organism to develop. The animals and plants, that is the biotic components, are interacting with the abiotic components like water, air, heat, temperature, moisture, etc. in order for their growth and development. So this property is known as property of interaction between the abiotic and biotic components are called interdependence. Interdependence. So what is interdependence? Interdependence is the interaction between the biotic and abiotic components for the growth of an organism. Now in your textbook page number 87, figure 9.19 shows the interaction between the components, biotic and abiotic components, that is the interaction between plants and animals with the air, water, etc. So here the plants, herbivores, carnivores, omnivores are given and how they interact with the abiotic characters are given. So kindly go through the picture now. Now we are moving to the second topic, that is adaptation. Now what are adaptation? Adaptations are the features or the characters shown by the organisms in order to live in a particular habit. The characters or the features shown by the organisms in order to live in a particular habit is what we call adaptation. So teacher will give you a few examples that we know what is a habitat. What is a habitat, dear children? Yes, and habitat is the surrounding of an organism, isn't it? The place where an organism live is called a habitat, isn't it? The place where an organism live is called an habitat. Now, the features or the characters shown by the organism in order to grow and develop in a particular habit is what we call adaptation. The features in order to adapt the circumstances, what we call adaptation. So teacher will give you a few examples, that is, most of you may have seen the lotus, isn't it? So where is the lotus seen? Lotus is an aquatic plant. It is seen floating on the water bodies, isn't it? Floating on the ponds, water bodies, etc. So have you gone through the special features of lotus? That is, they are having a waxy coating on their leaves. So likewise, they will be having a long tender stem and the leaves of the plant will be floating on the water. Leaf and flower will be floated, and whereas the stem and root will be submerged, isn't it? So likewise, that plant, lotus is having few adaptation in order to live in the aquatic region, isn't it? Whereas terrestrial plants like jasmine are having the adaptations to live in the terrestrial region. It will be having strong stem, they will be having leaves, etc. So jasmine and lotus have the adaptations to live in aquatic and terrestrial habitat. Terrestrial means land, aquatic means water. So these are the adaptations shown by the lotus and jasmine. Likewise, each organisms are having features in order to adapt, in order to grow and develop in their own habitat. Now next we will learn about type of habitats. Type of habitat. Now, we know what is habitat. Habitat is the place where a living organisms live, isn't it? So, the habitat type, we are going to learn about the type of habitat. Now, there are basically two type of habitat. The first one is terrestrial habitat. Terrestrial. And the second type of habitat is aquatic habitat. So the first one is terrestrial habitat, whereas the second one is aquatic habitat. In today's class, we will learn one example for terrestrial habitat. Now, what is terrestrial habitat? Terrestrial means land. What is terrestrial habitat? Terrestrial means land. So the organisms that lives in land is called terrestrial organisms, and the habitat of the terrestrial organisms is what we call terrestrial habitat. So dear children, what is terrestrial organisms? Yes, the organisms that lives in land is called terrestrial organisms. So what is terrestrial habitat? The habitat of the terrestrial organisms is called terrestrial habitat. Now, can you give me a few examples for terrestrial organisms, dear children? Yes, humans are example for terrestrial organism, and yes, all the organisms we see around us on land like cow, goat, tiger, lion and plants, etc., trees, etc. are example for terrestrial organism, isn't it? So the place where this organism, terrestrial organism live is what we call terrestrial habitat. Now the terrestrial habitat is again divided into four. Now can you name different type of terrestrial habitat? Yes, there are desert, forest, polar region, mountains, isn't it? Different type of terrestrial habitats are there, isn't it? So they are divided into four, that is desert, grassland or forest, mountains and polar region. So in today's class we will learn about the first type of terrestrial habitat, that is deserts. So, dear children, do you know the features of desert? What are the features of desert? Yes, the deserts will be extremely hot, isn't it? And extremely hot during the daytime, isn't it? And extreme cool during night, isn't it? So that is the special feature of desert. That is, they are extremely hot at daytime and extremely cool at the night time, isn't it? So that is a feature of. Can you give me a few organisms which lives in desert? Yes, camel is an organism. Very good. Now, yes, plant which lives in the terrestrial region. Yes, cactus is a plant, isn't it? So camel, cactus, etc. are example for organism that lives in the desert area. Now let's learn the adaptation of the plants which lives in the desert area. So most of you may have seen the cactus, isn't it? So what are the features of the cactus? Yes, they are having spines then. Yes, they don't have leaves, isn't it? So we know the structure of plants, that is leaf, stem, root, but cactus plant is not having any leaf, isn't it? And they will be thick in nature. Their stem is thick and fleshy. And their stem is thick and fleshy in nature, isn't it? So that is the character of a cactus plant. The adaptations, so those are the adaptations shown by the plants, cactus plant, isn't it? So now let's learn what are the adaptations shown by the plants in the desert. So this desert plants will have long and strong root. We know what type of soil is present in the desert. Yes, sand, isn't it? So the desert plants have long roots, and also they will not be having any leaves. We know that the leaves are the kitchen for the plant. They prepare the food for the plant, isn't it? So in desert plants, the food is prepared. The photosynthesis is done by the stem itself. So what is photosynthesis, dear children? Yes, photosynthesis is the process by which the green plants prepare food, isn't it? So in desert plants, they don't have leaves. The stem itself performs the photosynthesis. Now the third point is they will not show any transpiration. What is transpiration? Yes, what is transpiration, dear children? Yes, the process of loss of water through stomata is what we call transpiration, isn't it? The process of loss of water through stomatal opening is called transpiration. So this desert plants will not show any transpiration. So in order to show the absence of transpiration in desert plants, an activity is given in page number 88. So kindly go through that activity. So here the activity is done in order to prove that there is no transpiration happening in the desert plants. So here what we are doing is we are taking two potted plants. One part will be having the cactus plant, whereas the other part will be having a normal plant. We are tying the leaf of the normal plant and we are tying the stem of the cactus plant. After some times the droplets will be seen in the normal plant, whereas there is no water droplets seen in the desert plant. So this proves that there is no transpiration happening in the desert plant, isn't it? So teacher will demonstrate the activity. Dear children, kindly go through.
Activity 2. To show that desert plants lose very little water through transpiration. Things needed. A potted cactus plant. A potted leafy plant. 2 polythene bags. 1 strong thread. Method.
So dear children, here we are going to prove that desert plants like cactus need less water than our normal terrestrial plants. So this is a virtual lab setted. So here teacher is going to demonstrate the experiment. So what we are going to do is, first we are going to take a cactus plant. So let teacher take. So here the things are given. So first teacher is going to take the cactus plant.
Bring a potted cactus plant.
Now what we are going to do is, we are going to take a terrestrial green leafy plant. So let's take.
And a potted leafy plant.
We are going to keep both this plant in same environment and we are going to tie the leaf of the terrestrial plant and a small branch of the cactus plant. We are going to tie it with polythene sheet. So teacher is going to take the strong thread for that.
Tie the pot.
So now we are going to tie the polythene cover.
Polythene bags to some of the parts of the 2 plants. Leave the potted plants in the sun and observe after a few hours. Observation. We observe water droplets on the inner surface of the polythene bag tied to the leafy plant, whereas we see no water droplets on the inner surface of the polythene bag tied on the cactus plant. Conclusion. Green plants release a lot of water into the air through the process of transpiration, but desert plants, such as cactus plant, lose very little water through transpiration.
So dear children, I hope all of you understood that there is no transpiration or loss of water happening in the desert plants, whereas there is transpiration, loss of water through the stomata happening in normal terrestrial plants. Now let's learn about the adaptation shown by the animals in the desert. So can you give me few examples for animals that lives in desert? Yes, camel. Yes, isn't it? Now rats. Yes, now snakes, etc. are example for animals that lives in desert. Now let's learn what are their features. So the animals like rats, snakes, etc. they have burrows. They live in deep burrows of the desert. We know the desert is having sand, isn't it? And they are extremely hot. So they have deep burrows so that there will be moist underground and this animals can escape from the heat during daytime. And when night comes, this rats and snakes in the desert will come out and be active. They are nocturnal in nature. They are nightly active. Whereas in daytime, during extreme hot, these animals will stay in the deep burrows inside the sand. Now the animals like camels, they are having special adaptation. They are having long legs and also they have tissues in order to store water in their body. So the camels need not drink water frequently. They have tissues in their body which help them to store the water. Camel doesn't urinate. So we all have the urination process by which the water gets expelled out through the urine, whereas the camel does not. Camel have very little amount of urine, and also they have very dry dung. So this dry dung help them to preserve the water. Loss of water is very less from its body. So this is how the animals and the plants have the adaptations to live in their desert habitat. So now the second type of terrestrial habitat is mountain, and we also have polar region, and we have the forest and grassland habitat. So about those habitats we will learn in the next class. Let's revise what we have learned in the today's class using the DJ video.
Interaction between abiotic and biotic components. Interaction between abiotic and biotic components. No organism can live independently. In any habitat, plants and animals' biotic components depend on each other and on non-living components. Abiotic components of the environment. This is known as interdependence. Because of this interdependence, plants and animals help to maintain a balance in nature. Adaptation. An organism that is well adjusted to different conditions of its habitat will breed and flourish. Favorable features present in plants and animals that help them to survive in a particular type of habitat are known as adaptations. Adaptations may be in the form of modifications in shape, body organs, color and size. For example, the lotus plant is well adjusted to a water habitat, and a camel is well adjusted to live in desert conditions. Kinds of habitats. The major types of habitats are terrestrial habitat, aquatic habitat. Terrestrial habitat, terra in Latin means ground. The organisms that live on land are called terrestrial organisms, and their habitats are called terrestrial habitats. For example, humans, cows, deer, tigers and lions are terrestrial organisms. Deserts. Deserts are usually very hot during daytime and very cold at night. They get very little rainfall, so there is very little water available in the desert. Yet, a large number of plants and animals live here. Let us study what adaptations they have in these difficult conditions. Adaptations in plants. Cacti, singular cactus, commonly grow in deserts. This plant has the following adaptations. It has very long root that goes very deep into the soil for absorbing water. The leaves are reduced to spines. They help in reducing loss of water from the leaves through transpiration. The stem is thick and fleshy because it stores water. The stem is green in color. Since this plant does not have leaves, the stem is adapted to make food through photosynthesis. The stem also has a waxy coating to prevent the loss of water. Adaptation in animals. Desert snakes and rats make deep burrows that offer a cool and moist home during daytime when the desert is hot and dry. At night, when the desert is cool, the animals come out of their deep burrows and holes and become active, nocturnal animals. A camel has several adaptations that help it to survive in a desert. For example, camels have long legs, help to keep their bodies away from the heat of the sand. Camels have broad, fleshy soles, which help them to move on hot and slippery sand. Camels can drink large amounts of water when available and store it in their body tissues. They can therefore live without water for several days. Camels excrete small amounts of urine. They excrete dry dung. Thus, they can conserve water. Camels can increase their body temperature when the temperature of the surroundings rises during the day. This reduces sweating from the body and helps to conserve water. In deserts, strong winds blow sand high up in the air. Camels can close their long eyelashes and nostrils for protection from the wind-blown sand.
So dear children, today we learned about terrestrial habitat and we learned the first type of terrestrial habitat, that is desert. Next class we will learn 3 more terrestrial habitats. Don't forget to go through the textbook after this class. See you in next class. Thank you.